So, do you feel like your child has some very serious, deep, fundamental motivational issues? If you ask yourself, if you find yourself asking yourself, you know, why is it my kid has no dreams? He has no ambitions. I ask him what he wants to be, what he wants to do when he grows up, what he wants to be in the future, what kind of job does he want, and there's just nothing there. Um, that's a serious problem. It's very, very disconcerting, worrying, and I want to talk about that a little bit today. Um, where I think a lot of this comes from is there are many issues, there are many causes, there are many reasons for that. One issue that I've seen many times, dozens and dozens of students, is where the student becomes too comfortable. So today we're going to ask ourselves, is my child too comfortable in life? Is he complacent? As the founder and executive director of Ivy Zen, I've worked with hundreds of students over the past 20 years. I've seen this more over the past 5-6 years, where we have students who are kind of just doing what they need to do. They get okay grades. Maybe they're at the B plus, A minus. Some courses are B's, and why can't you do just that little bit extra to get to that A? And the student's response is not, like 12, 15, 20 years ago, I got a lot of responses like, well, it's too hard, and I'm trying, but I can't do it. What I've seen more over the past 5-6 years is, well, it's just not that important to me. Like, why do I need to do it? And we're going to talk about that today. So just to jump right into it, there's a new book out by Professor Paul Bloom, Professor Emeritus of Psychology at Yale. And he's come out with a new book called The Sweet Spot. The subtitle is really interesting: The Pleasures of Suffering and the Search for Meaning. I don't like the pleasures of suffering part, but I do like the second part, the search for meaning. And this is where I think what we as parents really need to focus on if we want to motivate our kids. We always have to be concerned about increasing meaning in our students' lives. The problem is, meaning doesn't come from comfort and happiness. It comes from pain. Okay? This is one of the things that Paul Bloom talks about. The intro and the first couple chapters kind of encapsulates a lot of it. And he says a couple things that are really, really important. I really want all parents to understand this. What I believe is that one of the fundamental reasons students lack motivation is that they seek comfort over meaning, happiness over meaning. So let's briefly talk about Paul Bloom's thesis. And basically his thesis is that meaning comes from pain. And it's actually something we seek out. There are a lot of activities that we seek out that are painful and cause suffering, but we do it because it increases meaning in our lives, right? And he makes the case with several points, but I'll just go over a couple of them. The first one being that he mentions that people who say their lives are meaningful tend to be more anxious, worried, and they also say they're not very happy. Okay. And when I first read that, it's about a couple months ago when I read the book. The first thing that came to my mind was the Stanford Longevity Project, which is another great book. Just search it on Google and you'll see it. It's an amazing book, and one of the findings was basically, the question of the book was, what personality types live the longest? And contrary to a lot of what people think, the carefree, stress-free, comfortable living types of people, died the fastest. It was the stressed out yet successful people who lived the longest, right? So that certainly seems to support Paul Bloom's first point. The other thing that he mentions is that countries whose citizens report the most meaning tend to be the poorest countries, right? So they don't have the material comforts that some of the more advanced countries do. Jobs that are most meaningful, for example, being a doctor, being a minister, they involve dealing with other people's pain, helping other people deal with their pain, right? So you're just basically thinking about treating, identifying, solving pain, right, in its various forms. Even just just briefly think about some of the most meaningful experiences of your life, and undoubtedly they involved a lot of pain. Obviously, having kids is a great example of that, right? The most meaningful thing that you can do in your life, and yet it's probably the most pain and suffering you will have. It's kind of why we're here today, right? So let's be clear. Avoiding pain is going to decrease the amount of meaning that your child has in his life. And when meaning goes away, you're going to find that motivation also drops.